This is the information from www.bfro.net/news/corf_scam.asp. The title is, Has the Patterson-Gimlin film been proven a hoax? The short answer, no. Let's scroll up here. This was posted by Matt Moneymaker on January 31st, 2010. There's a caption that says, 2010 National Geographic documentary, American Paranormal Bigfoot. You must see the program on large screen television to appreciate certain details of the analysis and anatomy. But for those of you outside the U.S. and Canada, there is a low-res YouTube version available. Click the icon above. Check the homepage for this series for the next scheduled broadcast on the newly redeemed National Geographic channel. Do tell your friends to tune in. As one BF blogger already said, this documentary really hits it out of the park. But what about the rumors? What about the rumor that one of the people who helped obtain the footage confessed to wearing the costume? There are, in fact, several different stories involving different people who claimed or were suspected to be the man in the costume. Logically, if the stories involve different culprits, then most of these stories must be completely bogus, because not everybody who made the claim of being the guy in the costume was the guy in the costume. Some of those bogus stories have been commercially exploited in books and TV documentaries. That is how most people have heard that the Patterson-Gimlin film was proven to be a hoax. On this page you will find links to YouTubery of the most influential documentaries, and some relevant background information on the most influential rumor of all, the Hieronymus Confession. Thankfully, in January 2010, new information was presented on television which graphically demonstrates that all of those costume stories were falsified. A new documentary on the National Geographic channel titled American Paranormal Bigfoot presented some compelling math and anatomy to show it's not a costume at all. The strategy for analysis of the Patterson creature built upon strategies employed in prior documentaries, namely Sasquatch Legend Meets Science and at least one episode of Monster Quest History Channel. That's not a bad thing. The three different examinations all mutually corroborate each other in various ways. The mathematical data of the latest examination gives a more precise measurement of the Patterson creature's height. 7 foot 6.5 inches tall. The math is there to be re-examined any time. There wasn't sufficient time in the documentary to examine any of the pervasive hoax rumors still floating around, but that can be done here. All the costume confessions now obsolete. Between the beginning of 1996 and the end of 1999, a new crop of Patterson-Gimlin film debunking rumors blossomed, as large segments of the North American population were connecting to the internet for the first time. Some of those claims were promoted by clever opportunists. A handful of these rumors received regional press attention. A few received national press attention. The stories did not corroborate each other. They were all contradictory in their details, but they all claimed to debunk the Patterson-Gimlin film. After a while, it became increasingly ludicrous to hear more stories claiming to be the final resolution to the mystery. Ironically, the most influential rumor floating around today is the one inadvertently promoted by the National Geographic Channel a few years back, in 2005. The series title was Is It Real? The episode title was Bigfoot. YouTubery of this old episode can be accessed below. The episode featured a new liar confessing to be the man in the costume. His name is Bob Hieronymus. Millions of people apparently saw that episode or heard about it from others because people often bring it up with us being the BFRO. His confession has even found its way into foreign publications describing nature mysteries around the world. At least this confessor lived in Yakima, where Patterson was from. Hieronymus claims he was friends with Roger Patterson and accompanied Patterson and Gimlin to Northern California with his costume. Patterson's widow says he's lying. Bob Gimlin says he's lying. No one can corroborate Hieronymus' claim that he accompanied Patterson and Gimlin. Various living witnesses near Bluff Creek say Patterson and Gimlin were not accompanied by anyone. No one ever saw Hieronymus with those two. Hieronymus doesn't know where they went exactly, or which route they took. Indeed, there is every reason to believe Hieronymus is trying to attach himself to the Patterson story with his own fiction. Roger Patterson apparently knew Bob Hieronymus before he obtained the footage in 1967. Patterson had been wanting to film a low-budget documentary about the subject. He organized some people in Yakima for some stock scenes on horseback for his film. Bob Hieronymus was apparently one of those people, but that appears to be the extent of his association with Roger. In the 9 years between the widely publicized Jerry Crew tracks in October 1958 and the Patterson-Gimlin film in October 1967, several people in the Northwest had the idea of making a documentary about the Bigfoot mystery. But only a few actually made progress in that direction. Patterson was, apparently, the only one among them who was willing and capable of leading extended horsepacking trips in the mountains where tracks were being found most often. Down around Bluff Creek, California. Hieronymus may have looked for a different way to obtain footage, a much easier way, closer to home. Hieronymus was aware of the widespread interest in the topic. Based on his own statements, it is obvious that he only looked upon the mystery as an opportunity for cashing in somehow. He may have acquired his own cheap gorilla costume before 1967 in preparation for hoaxing his own footage. There are statements from people around Yakima who recall Hieronymus having some kind of furry costume in his trunk during that period, and remember his claims that he was trying to fool some people with it. So there may have been a costume in his possession in the mid-1960s, but he didn't hang on to it, nor did anyone take a photo of him wearing it. Hieronymus is, in fact, one of Bob Gimlin's neighbors, but Gimlin had little social contact with him over the years. Gimlin has boarded and trained horses for decades. It was not uncommon for him to board horses of neighbors. During the late 1960s, one of the horses he boarded was owned by Hieronymus. It was, in fact, Hieronymus' horse that Bob brought down to Bluff Creek in 1967. If Hieronymus had felt left out of Patterson's project by 1967, it would have added insult to injury to learn that his own horse was used by Gimlin on the horse trip that made them both famous. Born in Missouri in 1931 and relocated to Yakima at a young age, Bob Gimlin is a tough but intriguing character. Part Chiricahua Apache and a former Navy boxing champion, and a former rodeo contender, he is adored by the nearby Yakima Indian tribe, having trained many of their mountain horses. After remaining silent about the Patterson-Gimlin film for nearly 30 years to protect his wife's job as a bank officer, Bob Gimlin finally attended his first Bigfoot conference in Willow Creek, California in 2003. Now he periodically speaks at Bigfoot conferences across the country. His name sells out auditoriums. People come from far and wide to meet him and ask him personally about the incident at Bluff Creek that day in 1967. Old-timers around Yakima delicately hint at the contrast between these two Bobs. Confessor Bob Hieronymus. In January 2001, he was quoted as saying, "These Bigfoot people are making money off it. Well, I should be getting a little cut of that, see? I'm getting nothing." One of the people who helped shape the Hieronymus story for the press is a notorious publicity scam artist named Cal Korff, a man described by national radio talk show host Art Bell as the most brazen media deceiver in the country. He is more well known among UFO research circles and JFK assassination conspiracy circles. Korff is a curious species of self-promoter. Watch the video above to ascertain Korff's credibility. He has a delusional pathology similar to the late Eric Beckjord, combined with the publicity-seeking compulsions of Tom Biscardi. Bob Gimlin, right, is an authentic horse whisperer straight out of an old Disney film. He was a champion in his day, champion boxer, rodeo contender, etc. He worked in a variety of jobs and eventually became a full-time horse trainer, his true passion in life. The reason Gimlin was involved with the Patterson-Gimlin film to begin with was because of his reputation as a talented horseman. Patterson needed the toughest, most dependable horseman he could find for that 1967 trip to the mountains of Northern California. Everyone knew Gimlin was the best of the region when it came to the sort of venture Patterson was proposing. Yakima folks say Bob Hieronymus left, by contrast, was always an underachiever since he was young. His bare minimum work ethic won him no admirers in the community. He didn't have many friends compared to Gimlin. Gimlin had a rather large circle of friends in the Yakima Valley. Hieronymus lives right down the street from Bob and Judy Gimlin. In Part 1.